pretty sure that the car you have is the Holy Grail. So over the years, I've helped build a lot of cars. And when I say help build them, I've been a parts liaison. With my accent, it opens up doors and allows me to obtain stuff, maybe a little bit easier than an American guy that they hear every other day. They hear a new voice on the phone, they get a little bit excited, they think I'm someone special, doors start opening, and there you go, Over the years, people have kind of gone, Sam, so you get parts and you help out at the end of builds, but do you actually build anything yourself? You can't build a car, You're in England, man. You don't know nothing about the hot rodding world or custom car building. And, when people say that, it's true. You know what? It's hard to hear it, but it's the truth, You start thinking, oh, man, I built this car, or I've been a part of a team that built this car. And then you start sitting back and going, actually, what have I done? I've helped out a lot with charity, gaining parts, and saving money on the, the down cost of the build. And I've helped put parts in cars that I've owned. And I've helped the snag list, the SEMA crunch list. I've helped with that too, but I physically haven't built anything for the US or the UK. So I got a phone call from one of my buddies who is a stunt driver on Fast and Furious Live. The best way to describe this without upsetting too many people: it was designed for car people, but wasn't designed by car people. The company went bust. Fast and Furious Live went bust. And I got a phone call saying, there's a private auction coming up. Are you interested in buying any of the cars? I can get you in. I was like, cool. So I sold my 1960 Cadillac Coupe de Ville, like hot chocolate, Detroit steel wheels on air. Like, it was bad for an English guy to have. Sold that, and I sold my 1970 Dodge Charger that was kind of mine and my dad's. And I had a little bit of money in the bank. And I went on this online auction, and I'm clicking away thinking I might have an opportunity to buy one of these cars. They're like my iconic dream cars. And there was a real Dennis McCarthy Dodge Charger that I think went for like $80,000. So there you go, my first dream car, boom, gone. I got no chance. I tried buying some other cars. There's like these little Hayabusa powered buggies that were really cool, and they went crazy as well. So everyone knows Paul Walker's green Mitsubishi Eclipse from the first movie. And I'm looking at it going, nah, that's cool. This is electric powered. Wasn't designed to do 50, 60 mile an hour. It was designed to do 10 miles an hour. These hubcaps would spin to replicate the car was moving, and the road, which was projected on the floor by big projectors, moved behind the car to make it look like it was going fast. And I click on it, £5,000 English, click. 10, 9, 8. Freaking won a car that is like one of the most iconic movie cars in like car history for my era. I won it, and it's looks the part. I mean, the bodywork is phenomenal. It's green. It's got all the stickers in the right place. So this car was a replica built especially for the Fast and Furious Live production. So I carry on bidding. Then this other electric Dodge Charger comes up. And I'm like, well, it's a 1970 Dodge Charger body. Like, they're 20 grand just for a clean body. Like, why not? I'm bidding away. I'm like £5,500, like $72,000. I won it. What's going on? Like, I won two of the most iconic movie cars in the world. At this point, there was no documentation backing it up. It's just a shell. It's just a prop. Once again, electric motors. You pressed a button, it went up on its back wheels, went along, smoke machines to hide all the wheelie bar equipment. But it's kind of cool. So I didn't just buy two cars at the auction. I bought a third vehicle. After the auction had finished, there's one vehicle that didn't get a bid. It was the Oshkosh Dune truck used when they stole the Di Tommaso Pantera off the train in the train heist. It was basically a mock-up to look like the one in the movie. Once again, it wasn't a film-used vehicle. It had Jeep Cherokee axles that are like 6 feet wide, and the truck's 10 feet wide. Had these big fiberglass wheels that spun and moved up and down to make it look like it was going over the dunes. It had like a $50,000 hydraulic aluminum body that came off the back. So it was designed to take a vehicle off, but never designed to put a vehicle on. So I bought the Dune truck, and we turn up, and somehow I've got to get 3 cars back to Portsmouth, which is a good 4 hours away from where I live, with 1 recovery truck and 1 lorry. So I got the Dune truck on. I'm like, damn it, where am I going to put the Eclipse? So we load the Dodge Charger on. It's too heavy. The body won't lift it on. So we put the Eclipse on, and it lifts it on. We get the Eclipse on the back of the Dune truck, on the back of a lorry, take it back to the UK. So we're driving down the highway, or the motorway in England, as we call it, and I'm looking at the Dune truck on the left-hand side with the Eclipse on the back, and I'm like, my life has just changed here. This is like a turning point in my life, my career, my future. If I die tomorrow, it's done. I've done something pretty cool by buying stuff that I don't need with all the money that I do need, but that's fine. We're driving down the street and some guy messages me on Facebook and says, hey, I used to work for Fast and Furious Live and I'm pretty sure that the car you have is the Holy Grail. And I'm like, what do you mean? He says, well, I'm pretty sure there's a title showing that it was owned by Universal City Studios. And I'm like, nah, I don't think so. I think that was probably the Dennis McCarthy build that sold for like 80 grand. He's like, no, check your VIN. So we pull over at the gas station and I start looking at the car and I check the VIN number out and I start going through the paperwork. And I've got a copy of the title that says Universal City Studios with my VIN number, black Dodge Charger. And I mean, does it get any more cool than a 1970 Dodge Charger that has been used on Fast and the Furious Live that was owned by Universal Studios? Then I find a receipt showing that it went from Universal Studios to Visual Effects, who's owned by Dennis McCarthy, then sold to Fast and Furious Live. So now I've got documentation proving that my car was a movie-owned vehicle, which is freaking awesome for me, like life-changing, which therefore gives me the idea of moving forward and making something special out of it that's road legal and usable, because therefore I can apply for a title in England and I can drive this car on the road. When I bought the car, I just thought it was a shell. It was cool. It was like the most perfect Dodge Charger body that I could ever dream of owning. Mopars over the years, thanks to the movie franchise, have just gone up in the world. There's no way of you being able to afford one on a normal worker's pay, And to own this car for peanuts and now owe me nothing, I was kind of like in a good position. And people all around the world were like, man, just put engineering training in it, stop being a jack. Come on, you're going to ruin it. And I'm like, I don't know. And then as a car guy, when you can't do something. Like, it's quite simple. Like, it can or it can't be done. And even if it can be done, it's going to be done to a bad standard that's never going to have any resale value. My lovely lady's laid there in bed. She's like, why don't you do it yourself? I was like, what do you mean? She said, why don't you build a car for SEMA with your sponsors and do something that no one's done? I was like, okay, I'll do it. I met this great guy called Carl from Talk American, and he's a big Mopar guy, And he comes down to my shop, and he's also talking me out of this. He's like, you're a jack. You cannot cut up this Mopar because you're going to ruin your reputation as an American car guy in England. Everyone's going to think you're an asshole. I was like, well, they're probably right. To be fair, they are probably bang on the nail of what I'm thinking about doing. I'm looking for a drivetrain now. So I need something where I can get a chassis rails, or I can do something like Dodge Chargers are a monocoque. So they got the chassis rails built into the frame. And it's not something you can take the body off. Now this NASCAR was on eBay and I looked at it. It's like an Outflack 99 Carl Edwards NASCAR. And I'm like, before I even got the Charger, the guy had it up for 20 grand. I was like, that's cool. I want to own a NASCAR, but I can't afford it. I'm hard up, I'm looking at it and I messaged the guy, I'll give you 10 grand. He's like, no. He comes down 16 grand. 2 weeks go by. I'll give you 10 grand. He's like, 14 grand. I was like, no. Finally, I get it for 10 grand. I go pick it up and I'm like a 16-year-old kid who's just got his first bicycle or whatever, and I am being an absolute I'm driving this NASCAR round like it is a go-kart. In England, you don't get the opportunity to drive like an idiot because there's no space to. I'm driving it around my estate, doing burnouts, doing donuts on slicks in a NASCAR. I'm like a kid in a candy store. I'm looking at it going, well, hang on, the rear end's like 20 grand, the brakes are 20 grand. People pay 250 grand to build these cars when they're new. Like, you ain't going to get a better frame to put underneath a car, right? So I'm thinking, why don't I just put the NASCAR underneath the Charger? And you start looking into it and you think, oh, it's just a fiberglass body. We'll take the fiberglass body off. Turns out they're all steel, right? And they're freaking heavy. So, someone spent $250,000 making this thing perform and go around a circle, right? Turn left, turn left, turn left. Cool, let's get a rip saw. So I'm getting a rip saw. I'm cutting the body off. I get it's $100 junker, I'm cutting the body off. Cut the body off, take the body off as one piece. I sold that. They turned it into a bar. I'm left with the best ever suspension. Dale Earnhardt front suspension. It's got NASCAR emblems all over it. It's got in the tank the race, the year, the date, all scribbled out. That's how it works. What can I do with this car to make it usable? So then I start making an exoskeleton up for the Dodge Charger. And I lift the body off, cut all the floor out. And by this point, I've got a Dodge Charger, which in my head, the body was probably worth 20 grand. Now it's worth maybe a couple of grand just in parts, like doors and fenders, because I've messed it up to the point of no return. I roll the NASCAR underneath, and probably should have checked this before I did it. But, when you're excited about something, you just crack on, and either way, you got to make it happen. So hurdles get in the way. It's not how you make a problem, it's how you get over it. And put the NASCAR underneath, drop it down, roll cage is in the way. Cool, cut the roll cage out of the way. Drop it down, still doesn't fit, cut more of the roll cage out of the way. Drop it down, cool, my wheelbase is out by 7 inches. You know, the distance between the front and the rear wheel is 7 inches different. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So I'm thinking of like moving the axle back, or I'm thinking about moving the front suspension forward. And in the end, I was like, well, hang on, I can just cut it in the middle, extend it 7 inches, extend the prop shaft, brake lines, all this kind of stuff, fuel lines, weld it back together. I worked with this guy called Adam, who's a welder. Call him in. He's like, we're going to do this. We're going to cut the chassis in half. And we don't have a jig. We don't have any like expensive equipment, laser lines, or any of this stuff. We're doing this old school hot rod style. We're learning as we're going along. And we cut it in half. And he comes up with this idea of welding these small pieces of angle line and putting a piece of steel in, right? So that's our length. We know that both sides we have one bar only. We don't have two. We paint it a special color that we don't throw it away, and we hang it up out the way. And we weld like two little pieces of angle bar and put this bar in. So that's our length at the moment. We then put that bar on the other side, do exactly the same. Then cut the car completely in half. So you can imagine how I'm feeling at this point. I've got a Dodge Charger that is not worth anything. I've got a NASCAR that's in probably 60 to 70 pieces that is not worth anything, apart from all the parts. And I'm like, this is never, ever in my life going back together. Like I've never gone this far before, and now I've gone too far. We cut another piece of steel that's 7 inches longer. We put that in, we brace it up, we jig it all up, weld it all together, measure, check, everything. And it's perfect. Like, it's flawless. And we're like, cool, well, we're achieving something now. Then we start dropping the body down. I start making these inner seals so that they're so perfect that when you drop the Dodge Charger down, it glides on the chassis rails of the NASCAR so that it's a perfect seam fit. So even if you wanted to, you couldn't grab hold of the car and move it in any direction. It's a flawless fit. We use the original firewall for the NASCAR, everything in place. And it gets to the point, well, actually, it's starting to look pretty cool now. I've got these big Goodyear tires hanging out the front fenders. The wheelbase looks amazing. The wheels up inside the wheel arches just looks like something like Dave Kindig would do, you know? They're 27 and a half inches tall. If you start working out, that's like a 22-inch rim with some like real low pros on it. You could go pro street with it. You could put some bad big 22s and make it look kind of pro street. And I was thinking, oh my God, this is looking good. I'm trying to get someone to build me a roll cage, yeah? I've never done a roll cage in my life, but I don't want to send it somewhere and pay someone $2,500 to make a roll cage. I want to get someone to come to my shop, bring a pipe bender, like a Mandarel bender, a Bailey one, bring me that, and we'll do it together. I want to learn. This car is going to be built by me, and I'll have help along the way because I ain't no genius, but I want to build it at my shop in my time with my hands. And in a day from 6 in the morning till 6 at night, we filmed every part of it, and we built this freaking badass roll cage. Drop it down, take it up, drop it down, pick it up. We dropped the body on, I welded it all on. I made the trunk all look OE to fit the original NASCAR chassis. I had sponsors from all around the world. I mean, Cobra bucket seats in the UK, they phoned me up like, we hear you're building something pretty crazy. I was like, yeah. Well, would you consider putting our seats in it? I was like, yeah. Everyone's heard about Cobra bucket seats. I mean, they're built well, they're race approved. They must be doing something right to still be around. Then Schroff Racing, who work with Cobra, sent me these like 4-inch wide NASCAR 8-point harnesses, like over the top, but it just works. You start going through things, everything just falls together. You know, Mickey Thompson, I phoned him and was like, well, I need a tire I can drive across America in, but I want them 27 and a half inches high, I want them 12 inches wide, I want them by 15. They're like, well, we do this, but they're 28 inches high, but they're a little bit narrower. And I was like, but the problem is, you can't really get cooler than Goodyear Eagle tires, right? But when they're like 3 mil thick NASCAR tires, you hit a stone or a nail, you're gonna have a blowout. Especially on snow, you can't drive in slicks. So Mickey Thompson sent me these tires, and I basically contacted the head of marketing. And I said, I want the logos from 1968 to 72. And they sent them to a company called Tire Stickers, who made me up these NASCAR-esque bright yellow logos, which basically copy the fact of the NASCAR Eagle NASCAR tires, but now I'm on tires that can actually get me across America, you know? And the whole thing is starting to come together. I've got the right wheels on it. I've got an audio system in it. Like, I can tell you who puts an audio system in a NASCAR. This jack. I think I must be the only man in the world that puts an audio system in a NASCAR. I met this guy who owns Speed Dog, DAWG, who make these custom bad gear shift balls, right? He said to me, Sam, if you ever want anything and you're bringing something to SEMA, just let me know. So I'm like, well, I got Dominic Toretto's Dodge Charger. I got it on Carl Edwards' NASCAR chassis. And Paul Walker's not with us anymore, right? So how can I do something in this car that is going to be kind of cool? So I contacted him. I said, I got this idea of a shiftable, and I asked everyone, and everyone says my idea was stupid. So it just gave me more ammunition to move forward with my plan. And I sent it to him, and I want to do 1, too fast, 3, for Paul, because it's for Paul Walker, because he's not with us anymore, and that was a big stepping stone, like, you know, him being gone from the franchise for me. And too fast, because it's like Too Fast, Too Furious. So when you read it, you got 1, too fast, 3 for Paul, but when you read it, it says too fast for Paul, because the Dodge Charger was always too fast for Paul. I sent the logo back on like a sketch drawing on like a napkin in a restaurant. I take a picture and send it to him. He's like, bad. It's like, cool. What are you going to do with it? I was like, I'm going to take it to SEMA. He's like, cool. Let me contact Mopar and see if they endorse this as a one-off gear shift knob in the world. Mopar endorsed it. It's got Charger written down the side of it. And it just is mind-blowing. Like, you sit in it, and the car's cool, the seat's cool. You got this bright white shift knob with 2 lines with the logo on it. And it's just amazing. And then to be able to show Cody Walker what I did, him to sign the dashboard, it was kind of quite emotional for me, because I looked up to Paul Walker so much. Like, even you don't get to know the guy, you don't know him, you'll never meet him, but for what he represented as a human being, a nice guy, someone that had a young family, someone that did stuff for charity, kind of like hit home a lot for me. I think I'm a nice guy. I help out charities. He's a car guy. He's in a movie that you idolize. And for him to pass away at such a young age, it really shows you how precious life is. And I want to do something in this car. I kind of remembered him, because the only reason I'm here today is because of the love of the movies that he was in at the beginning. So, you know, to do that shift knob is pretty cool. The dream. I built, let's call it now, the NAS Charger. Yeah? NASCAR powered Dodge Charger. Documented by Universal Studios, raced by Carl Edwards. I mean, does it get cooler than a road-going NASCAR?
We'd like to thank Avalon King for their continued support of the VINwiki YouTube channel. Obviously, I've installed it onto my Porsche 993, which one of our app users is going to win once we hit 1 million subscribers. I've got it on the LP640, and it's performed flawlessly in both cases. The cars are much easier to clean, the finish looks a lot better, and I've really been impressed with it. So we're going to do some more experimentation with the ceramic coating this month, but please do check out the link in the description below, enter the code VINwiki for a discount, and thank them for supporting your favorite YouTube channel.